Hello, this is Nick Payne here, and today what I want to talk about is the mindset of the worker involved in a business undergoing transformation or continuous improvement. Right, now before we spoke about mindset of leaders, and we've done that at length. Lots of people talk about what you need to do to lead and inspire people. Now, if you're in a small business, you're a business owner and you've got maybe up to 20 people, then you can lead those people in that change because there's not really anywhere they can hide, and it's more likely to be a family feel. So that tends to be what happens in that small kind of business. Now, as soon as you start getting slightly bigger than that, the disconnect between management and worker increases. So obviously the business owner, once this starts to get bigger, more successful, they're still looking to get more working because they want to grow the business, because they want to be successful and go on into the future. But they still want to do that. They still want to improve things, still want to get better and better, especially if they've embraced lean methodology or whichever methodology they want to use. So they have to get someone else to do that, and that tends to be either management or a change agent or facilitator. Could be even a full-time role that they do. Now, those people will tend to understand the change method, whether it's lean, whether it's Six Sigma or theory of constraints or whatever they're going to be using. And those people can often see where things need to improve. Now, if they just go ahead and put an improvement into place, there's often a lot of pushback there because people see that they've had stuff done to them, didn't even know why. Even though there may be an improvement, there's a chance for a huge improvement, it's likely to be doomed to fail if there's no input from the shop floor. So what we want to do, we want to get workers involved in any change activity. Problem with that is, human beings being as they are, we like to get into what we call a comfort zone. We like things to be repeatable, so we don't have to think. We just go in and do stuff, and we're happy to do that stuff. Also, your shop floor workers may not be aware of the drivers for the business. The business needs to improve. They might not be aware of what they are. You may also have temporary workers in that business who aren't connected, therefore we perceive them as not really caring. But we still need to actually include those types of people, the people that, the ones who get into that comfort zone, and they get into that very quickly, and it can be difficult to break them out of it, but we still need to involve all those types of people in any change activity. So, because we say, okay, the teams aren't aware of the outside factors that are causing the business to change, we need to communicate what that is. If we're fighting competitors, we need to let them know that. We may have a customer that demands a 10% increase in, or 10% decrease in costs. They may do that. That happens in the automotive industry quite a lot. So an annual 10% decrease in cost. We may have achievement targets. So we may say, right, we want to decrease non-value-added activity by 5% year on year. Whatever it is, it might be 20%, and then scale it over time, whatever it is. We need to communicate what those achievement targets are to the various different work areas. Now, people being what they are will interpret any situation in the best way that suits them. So they can be, even though you can sort of quite clearly state that we've got to improve something, they can, I'm not saying they all do, but they can totally ignore that. So the change agent or the facilitator's job, manager, the job is to connect that need to change to their work area specifically. Yeah. So that could be that the turnaround time is taking too long. And you can go to that team and say, right, in this area, the turnaround, the time it takes to do the work is taking too long. So that's something specific they've got to think about. And then the other things that go with that say, right, so if it's taking too long, therefore we can't do the work in time, therefore we're going to be late with our orders, therefore the customers are going to be upset, therefore the customer's going to go elsewhere, therefore we could potentially lose work, therefore you could potentially lose your job. Be realistic with people. So the idea here is not to scare them, is to try to have many layers of getting them to see the need to do something different. Now, the chances are, even if, say, the turnaround time for this work area is too long, they'll go, well, we've been working this way for however long it is, this is the way work is done, we can't do anything about that. That will be the initial reaction. So, we either process map, or we get them to do the process mapping. We need them to look at how the work is carried out, so they can spot all the activities involved in it. Then, as facilitator, what you do is you ask them very specific things, because even though you may map the whole thing out, you just take a step back and say, look, there it is, what are you going to do now? How can you do that better? Because they just go, I don't know. So specifically, if you can see the non-value activity through that process mapping and put it to them, you can ask very specific questions. An example could be, during that process map, you found that someone's had to walk 20 meters to get something and then come back. So that's 40 meters to walk. Being a human being, probably take them maybe 2 minutes, because they get there, do whatever they do to get the thing they're after, and then come back. But because they're also humans, social creatures, they might have a chat with someone on the way. And then whilst they're over there thinking, I might as well go to the toilet. So all of a sudden, that 5-minute task, or what should be sort of 1 or 2 minute task, takes 5 to 10 minutes. And if it happens twice a day, well, that could be 20 minutes a day, which in a week is 100 minutes, which is almost 2 hours. So 2 hours of lost productivity, that can make a hell of a difference from one person there. So if you ask the question, why did you go over there? What was the reason to go over there? And they say to find this tool. You say, okay, how can we do that so you don't have to wander over and get it? And they'll come out with whatever solutions, or they'll move the tool, or get another tool, whatever it is, but they've had an input, they've solved the problem. So you can then put that solution into place, and they'll think, oh, I suggested something and they've done it. Maybe if I suggest something else, they'll also do that then. And so the more you lead people in, asking leading questions like that, you may already see the answer, you may know the answer. And what we tend to do as facilitators, we want to look like we're really clever, we want to give these solutions, we want to help people. But in the long term, if you can get all of the people, say if you got 100, if you can get 100 people make small incremental steps, that's much more powerful than one person taking a huge leap. Okay, so that's how I suggest you get people on board, is give them very specific things to solve. Once they get used to solving small specific things, they'll start to see more opportunity, and then they'll start to suggest more themselves. And because they've solved something, you can give a very personal thank you. You can tell the senior management owners that they've come up with a solution, whatever it is, and as long as they give a heartfelt personal thank you to them, then that's very, very powerful. You can do other stuff like put it in newsletters, that sort of thing, like suggestions of the week, or performance improvement done by person A, B, C. That can be good, but it's not personal. So it is good to do, but you're separating from the personal aspect. And that leads me on to the other side of things is, remember, it doesn't matter whether someone is a shop floor worker or a manager, they're all people. There's nothing really that separates those people. Maybe the only thing that does separate them is opportunity at some point in the past. So, some simple things that I've done that seems to work is I will eat where the workers eat. Something about breaking bread. It is very powerful because effectively what you're doing by eating with people is you're on a subconscious level showing vulnerability. As soon as they can see that you are vulnerable in some way, they will start to trust you. Once they see that you're sat there eating with them, so, because I've seen it where you've got managers eat in one place, shop floor workers eat in the other. There may be space limitations, I get that, but what is very, very powerful is when those people can eat together. You can start to listen to the conversation. I've learned some very interesting things. I learned a lot about one of the guys in the place I worked. He bred parrots and lorikeets, and I found out that lorikeets don't have a crop, so they have to have fruit juice. They can't have seeds. I didn't know that before. It was just interesting. Other people talk about the video games they play. So I've played video games for most of my life, and so you can have conversations around that, and you can say how bad you are. Again, you're showing vulnerability. Therefore, you're someone to be trusted. You're not this all-powerful, all-wonderful manager type person. Now, as soon as you've got that level of trust, and you don't talk about work when you're in break time, you talk about anything outside of work. You could talk about their hobbies, talk about families, you talk about your family eventually. You can look at the latest outrageous thing on Facebook and say, oh, I can't believe this, or the funny meme. All those things. I know humour's subjective, but you'll get a feel for people and what they like and what you can talk about. Because once you get people on board that trust you, it's easier to ask them to get involved in the change process. So what you're doing is you're trying to use your powers for good. The other thing you can do, in any organization you have vertical hierarchy, so boss all the way down, supervisors, yada, yada, yada. You also have horizontal hierarchy as well. You will have ringleaders within ringleaders across the organization. So when you get one of those influencers on board and they talk about change and they get involved in it and they do it, they'll start talking to everyone else and they'll get them to get in. So they'll actually give peer pressure on those people to get involved in it, because there's a good thing, there's congratulations, there's job security, there's all the rest of it. Also union people, brilliant to get union people involved, because union people are inherently distrustful of improvement efforts because they see it as a way to cut jobs. The way I always look at that is what we do when you're doing improvement efforts. Actually what we're trying to do is make jobs more secure, or we're trying to grow the business, therefore we're looking to employ more people, and we need some good input from the shop floor to make it happen. So you use union leaders, what they think is their weapon against you, you use that to your advantage. So what we want to do is make jobs more secure, therefore keeping people in work. And the other thing I mentioned earlier before was you may have temporary workers who may not feel connected. What you can do is by attempting to get temporary workers or casual workers involved in any change process, the ones that actively involve themselves in it, they become the ones you recruit, because you want that sort of person in the place. Now, if you're in a big organisation, so you've got 1,000, 2,000 people, you're going to have some natural attrition, so you're going to need to replace workers with new blood, and the ones you replace those with are the ones that actively involve themselves in your improvement efforts. Therefore, you're filling up with the right characters that you want. And the other thing they always say is reward the right behaviour, ignore the bad behaviour. Don't punish it, just ignore it. The way I always do that is there are always, wherever there is work, there is work that is better than other work. So the ones that actively get involved in the improvement effort, they get the better work. I'm not punishing anyone, I'm just rewarding what is good. But ultimately, being honest with people, building relationships, and giving a heartfelt thank you, especially if that comes from the highest management all the way through, that goes a hell of a long way in building that trust that enables you to get what you want, which enables the business to be more solid, more awesome, and go on into the future. So, there you go. Please feel free to leave any comments on what you've done to get worker engagement for improvement. give me a shout out if you want anything else I can look at. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.